Hi there, everybody. Leading Our Own Ways family and fans and supporters. You're amazing people. Thank you for coming back every week. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. As you know, I'm Andrew White. For this week on Leading Our Own Way, we have the incredible series with Dr. Howard Walsdorf. He's from Syracuse, New York. He's absolutely incredible. And he might just change how you think about health and healing forever. If you've ever wondered why being in nature feels so good, why you feel so good coming off that British lad's holiday in Spain, or coming off the beach if you live in a beachy area, or certain environments, you know why certain environments drain your energy, you're about to discover some mind-blowing insights through the ancient wisdom of the four elements. Because in this part we're diving into how fire, air, water and earth shape our well-being in ways modern science is only beginning to understand, but people that understood thousands of years ago, believe it or not. Now we need scientists to understand it. It's interesting that I never thought about that. Anyway, make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube and that notification bell to catch every part of this transformative conversation with Dr. Howard. I've changed this week for the first time ever into a 3-week part. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That might change, so I apologize if I got it wrong, but it's 3 parts. Anyway, here's part 1. Dr. Howard. Welcome, Dr. Howard Walsdorf. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing very well there, Andrew. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. We had such a good chat. It was all the way back in January, and now we're filming in May.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll remember some of the things we talked about, but and all new things as well. It was really nice chatting with you in January. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I learned a lot that day, and I'm quite positive we'll be able to put it out in the world today, so for people to take away. But thanks for giving up your Saturday afternoon all the way in Syracuse, New York.
Very. Yeah, it was a fun day here. We went to the beach. And went to the farmer's market early on, bought a bunch of flowers for the garden. I'm an avid gardener, so this is my season to enjoy gardening. I'm a passionate, over-the-top gardener. Anything to get my hands in the dirt seems to be one of my drives during growing season, anyhow. So
yeah, and that's gonna. I know we'll probably go deep into the nature side of your life as well.
Yeah.
So the weather, has it been cold over there in Syracuse?
Well, no, it's
over the winter.
It's spring, so it's in the 70s, 60s. We even got an 80s. It's early spring, mid spring now. Things are greening up. It was a tough winter that we had, but now people are kind of happy to have spring, but not enough sunshine. Up here, we get a lot of cloudy weather. So as you'll hear me talk about the fire element, getting ahead of myself, the sun is the fire element. We don't get enough of it here in Syracuse.
Why do you think I moved to Australia?
Fair enough. Yeah, there's times that my wife wants to move somewhere where it's sunnier. Yeah, but I've been here
because England.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I've been here for now 40 years, so we're pretty accustomed to it. But some winters are harder.
Where were you before that?
What's that?
Where were you before that?
I grew up downstate on Long Island, and then I came up here to go to school. I went to State University of New York's Environmental Science and Forestry. So that kind of gives a little bit of background as a natural scientist that I kind of grew into, and still consider myself a natural scientist, and the like, and discovered the 4 elements along the way, as we'll talk about, I guess.
We definitely will. Yeah, we definitely will. Well, I think that's a really good place to start. You've brought it up. Let's go there then, Howard.
Sure.
How are you? Well, I'll start off with the question connected to my title of the podcast. It's, as you know, the title of my podcast is called Leading Our Own Way, and you are leading your own way in a certain direction, and you're doing some unbelievable, incredible things. How would you consider that you are leading your own way?
Well, I would say that, as I posit myself as a 4-element healer, doctor, visionary, and if you went back 1,000 years ago, there were a lot of people that were into the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth of the ancients. And for some reason, I'm an outlier in today's world, in this modern world, where we don't really talk about this ancient wisdom that propelled Western culture for literally at least 2,000 years, if not 4,000 years. So few people know about this ancient model that from which science, philosophy, even the arts evolved from this focus on this fire, air, water, and earth foursome of nature. That's kind of my leading in my own way, because there's not that many people that are focused in that manner, and I bit the bug, quite a while back, and I can tell you a little bit of my backstory there. When I was an undergraduate at my college here in Syracuse, I took a course in astrology. I was an 18-year-old uh, student there, and astrology talks about fire, air, water, and earth as the four sun sign types, archetypes of sorts. And as a natural scientist, I kind of felt resonated with those four elements. And from then on, I've got the bug that this four element way of thinking is useful, it's spiritual, it's practical in many ways that I've discovered along the way. So that's what my mission is to bring this four element way of thinking back into vogue. I like to use the word back into vogue, bring it to the radar, onto the radar screens of people today. So that's my leading in my own uh, way of approaching my mission. I don't know if that speaks to what you're saying, but
Yeah, it
but
does. Yeah. Because you've just brought up about how get the forward way thinking as a doctor. Then, do you see a lot of people that come into you that just as the words that come into my head is out of whack because they're not in tune with the bare essentials of what we've been living with. What, like you mentioned,
right.
I think it probably goes back hundreds of thousands of years. To be honest, we've
Well, because nature was the world around us, and in this modern
mm,
world, we don't really, we have all these things that have insulated us from the natural
yeah,
world. But as I'm a holistic chiropractor. I've been doing it, like I say, for 40 years now. And people don't come for this metaphysical perspective that's part of this formant way of thinking, but more so there's very practical parts to it. So as a chiropractor, I'm focused on the skeletal system, alignment of the bones, and so the way that I approach the body in a very holistic manner, and holism is really about understanding this pattern that's repeating on every level of nature, in our human condition, and the cosmos in general. So these four elements that nature calls us, helps us to see as the sun, the air, the water, and the terra firma under our feet. Um, those are principles, forces, energies, and ultimately elements of nature um, that the ancient healers, they did work with that. So as a chiropractor, I'm working on that skeletal system of the earth element of our body, and the
mm,
alignment of those bones is kind of what the earth element requires of us, is to have those bones well aligned, and posture fits into that. So there's lots of a lot of practical ways of applying this model. uh, as a chiropractor, when I work with nutrition, we approach it from a water element. The blood of the body is the water element of the body. It kind of makes sense once you kind of
yeah,
understand that. uh, so so there's all different ways as I work with herbs, nutrition, uh, exercises that as it turns out, the muscles that move us through space. So think of air as the space that nature fills up space, and we call it air. And it's this
mm,
principle of separation of elbow room that everything needs. And muscles move us through space. So as I work as a chiropractor to help people get more robust in a muscular way, that's part of this forum uh, doctoring that I do, if you don't understand what I'm saying. And the nerves are the fire
mm,
element of the body, and nerve flow is so important. And so there's lots of ways that I work on that as well. Mental well-being is part of the nervous fire element part of things. So there's a lot of holistic ways that this four element paradigm model can help my patients, uh, and I've grown myself, and I see it as an adventure. I try to get my patients to see it as an adventure for them to take on their own story and put it into this
yeah,
frame of reference. So the four elements are kind of a frame of reference that we can use in this modern age when everything's so fragmented, and we can get overwhelmed by all the diversity. But if we have these four elements as a reference point to kind of help us organize and categorize and understand how to balance, ultimately it's about balance, and
yeah,
and that's where so many people, my patients, feel out of balance. And my office visits, are, like 40 minutes long for the most part. And, there's a lot of things that we talk about in between that period of time when uh, when I engage those patients about, balance in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When your patients come, are they aware of what they're walking into in the sense of what you're going to talk about? Are they?
Most of them are focused on getting rid of their pain.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not
Well, yeah, of
everybody's,
course, that's what I mean.
not
Yeah,
everybody's engaged by these things. Uh, there's different levels of care that I offer my patients. And some of them just
sure.
want a quick chiropractic adjustment, and I serve them very well. I love doing spinal adjustments and things in that order. But
Hmm.
more and more of my patients appreciate that I do more deeper work, and that's very gratifying to them and to myself. Uh,
Yeah.
so stress relief. I do a lot of work on the skull. That's one of my passions is craniopathy, or the facial cranial work that I do. So I have discovered lots of ways to apply this model. Even within the skull, the anatomy of the skull is even built upon these four elemental principles. At least that's my research tends to show that. So yeah, again, I don't know if I'm going in a direction that's a little too obtuse right now, but I see the whole body as built upon these four principles. And I have this sacred architecture model that I'm finishing up a book on right now, on the sacred architecture of the human body. And people who are into
Ooh.
yoga, martial arts, I have people that are into that are patients. They seem to be excited about this sacred architecture model that I've devised, and I think it's one day I think it'll be more appreciated. Right now, I'm an outlier here in upstate New York, but I aim to make a difference in bringing this ancient wisdom forward. And it's a privilege because nobody really is talking about this ancient knowledge that I know of, that
Mm,
I see out there.
mm.
And I think by putting in 40 years of my life into it, I've come up with something, a variety of things that are significant, if I must say so myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I want to, and we're going to. I know we're going to dig deep, and I'm going to bring the
Sure.
book up. But I've got two questions before we go there.
Yeah, yeah.
You just mentioned before. I'm going to make a mental note of the outlier because I think that's interesting. But before that, could you share maybe a case study, not names or anything like that,
Yeah, yeah.
just something that where somebody might have come in, they weren't necessarily aware of your goal, your mission, and that depth of thinking, that lateral thinking of your
Hmm.
therapy, but by the time you finish with them, it just changed everything for them. Have you ever had, I'm sure you've
Sure.
had a
Yeah,
case like
yeah.
that before, but is there any that sticks to your mind and you can
Well,
share with us?
I would say that oftentimes it starts with posture and alignment. It's the earth element, and I find that's always useful to start at the bottom and work their way up. And so,
Yeah.
and I'll tell your listeners right now is it's useful to know there's an order to these four elements. And the way I like to say it to remind my patients is to think of the way somebody from Boston might say four, the four. Maybe in
Yeah.
Australia
Yeah.
you already say the four, but fire, air, water, and the E of four is silent. So fire, air, water, and earth. The sun is up top, earth is at the bottom, air is lighter than water. Okay, so the four
Yeah.
element. So the point I want to
Yeah.
make there is that it's useful to start at the bottom at that earth element. And people are coming here because they have structural pain, or pain that is what I typically find is to be structurally founded. And by getting that patient focused on their feet. Okay, so oftentimes I talk about their feet. Walking is a big part of how I get people to begin their adventure in the four elements, because
Mm,
we part of the human condition, what makes us unique as humans, is that we're bipedal, and we have feet that engage the ground. And part of, I think, what has evolved humankind is that we have feet, we're biped, and the way we walk has does something to help our human condition, has helped evolve our physical body, and our and our brain and our spirit, for that matter, all come because we can walk. So
mhm.
I find a lot of my patients, they don't walk with heel strike enough, and most people have some amount of heel strike, but a lot of people don't engage the ground quite well enough at the back of their foot, which is the heel. And So in that sacred architecture model that I've devised, the back side of the body is that earth side. And, just like when your arms come forward, it's your shoulder blades in the back that kind of root the arms back. It's your spine in the back of you that is that earth element of your skeletal system. Your heels of your feet are kind of like that earth element repository. It's at the bottom and it's at the back and it's, of the feet and all that. So getting patients even focused on walking better is a good way. People get really surprised frequently about just, getting an idea of how to walk better. And it just feels different when they walk with a heel strike awareness. So that's a good way to start. So
Simple
that, the
stuff.
light goes off in their head and we start integrating breathing. When they walk, I tell them to divide their breaths into right, left, odd, even, divide the breaths into 4 counts and the odd counts. Breathe into the right side of their diaphragm, so it goes from there. And then, they get more and more into this concept of what does Dr. W, what else does he have to say to help apply these 4 principles of nature into me? And, then we get to nutrition, which is the blood, the food that we take in that feeds into the blood, and, the fire element of our nervous system, our brains, and ultimately it comes down to balance. So many patients, want to find balance in their life. So some, patient that comes to my mind is somebody that felt very scattered, very, out of balance. And she was somebody in a professional where she had lots of things to do, and getting her to just go out walking and heel striking as she walked. And I recommended to her to if the sun's shining and it's cool out, just to kind of take a moment and just kind of, absorb, have a ritual, mystical moment. I try to get my patients to take these mystical ritual moments where they can engage. Like I say, here in Syracuse, the sun doesn't always shine. So when the sun shines and it's cool out, absorb that fire force of nature, which in this form way of thinking is kind of this spiritual life force, if you will. So there's a spiritual dimension to it, but you don't have to even believe in anything spiritual. It's just this force of nature that's, if you will, that's just this oneness energy that creates idealism and vitality in our human selves. So there's a lot of dimensions.
People have because I think the stats show that we used to spend 85% of our time outdoors, and now we're spending around 97% of our time indoors, because of obviously what we've created over the last 100 years, and buildings and work and society and functioning in that business world, and 9 to 5, and then we go home and be in our house even longer because we're tired from the day. We've lost the art of really being in the sun. And I notice, even when I just come off the beach, even when I was living in England, and you go on holiday, you feel amazing. And it's not just because you've looked at the beach, it's because you've stood in the sand, soil, or grass. You've stood on the earth, and I don't know what the word is. Is it polarized? Are you energized?
I mean, there are natural, forces, energies, fragrances, biochemical things happening. They talk about in conifer forests. There's these evergreens do put out these phytochemistries that do affect us. But from a different perspective, perhaps, is what I tell my patients is when we're inside, we get stimulated by all this indoor stimulation, 4 walls with their different things in there. And it creates our consciousness. Our consciousness is affected by the sensory information that comes into us. When we're outside, a whole different bunch of stimulations, and we come up with new insights, new sensitivities, and things that we might mull over things in a different way. We come up with different insights that we would not have gotten from an indoor consciousness generated by indoor environments. So just getting out every day, a little bit, or regularly every week for that matter, if it only comes down to that, is really an essential part of being a human being. and
that's what we've lost, haven't we? We've
we
lost
have
those bare essentials.
And can I just add one thing? I'll try not to drag it on too long here, but what I like to tell people is that what makes the human condition unique is that we are balancing. So in my opinion, we're meant to balance these principles, these 4 elemental principles. And there's more than 4. The Chinese have metal and wood and we can maybe talk about that. But the point I want to make here
Yeah,
is
for sure.
that one of the parts of the human condition is we have what I call the modern pole and the primitive pole. And the
Mhm.
modern pole is that the newness, technology, and we're
Yeah,
you know a- animals don't have that modern pole. Pretty much every generation of an animal is pretty much the same as the one that came before it. There's always little exceptions here and there, but the
yeah,
primitive pole in my sense of it is nature. So nature is the primitive pole. Technology, or whatever you want to call it, is the modern pole. And we're meant to balance these things, but the point is that at no time in human civilizations that gulf between the modern and the primitive pole been so wide and growing so exponentially fast. So I do believe
yeah,
that one of the dilemmas and the stresses of our modern time is that and it's unacknowledged and unappreciated, under realized, is that gulf between the modern and the primitive pole is just so separate that we feel that imbalance is a precarious balance. There's always a balance that is present, but some balances are beautiful and elegant, and some are
yeah,
precarious and dangerous. And I think that why I'm on a mission to bring this four element way of thinking forward is because I think that the four elements and what they represent, the forces, the principles, the ideals of these four elements, that nature shows us as these four principles that nature shows us as these four elements of itself, are uh, at the core of nature. And if you can understand what these principles, ideals are, you get into that primitive pole quicker, and you can understand what you need for balance against the over dominance of the modern pole today. Does that make sense to some degree to you?
it yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it connects to what my I was mentioned before we started recording about now Paul Taylor, a neuroscientist and a human exercise expert and uh, physiologist. I don't know if he's considered a human physiologist, but he explained about the genotype not changing for at least 45,000 years, but now we're expecting everything that we've changed in the last, I suppose 1,000 years. We just can't keep up with the manipulation of food, the way we're trying to manipulate sleep,
Mm-hmm.
the way we're trying to manipulate exercise. We've created all this, like you say, amazing modern pole technology, but now I see kids skating, but they're on a scooter and it's electric. No one's moving the feet to even move anymore, and we're losing
That muscular
that natural.
robustness on that level. I mean, I
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
the air element of muscular robustness. We all need that. We all
mm,
feel
yeah,
sluggish and tired and fatigued because we don't get enough of that robustness, that muscle activity. We lack so much physicality. I mentioned earlier, I'm an avid gardener. I love to dig in the dirt,
yeah,
and uh, that physicality of effort and digging, uses muscles, and I feel good as I'm doing it, and I
yeah.
finish the day, and I feel, you know, my body feels healthier because of it.
Th-
And I walk to
yeah,
work
that's
every
right.
day, and that helps
Yeah, great.
muscles. I like to tell my patients, life is movement, movement is life, and that
Yeah,
seems to work for them for some reason. That quick little phrase, but movement challenges us to use muscles. We have to use muscles, and so much of our activities don't require muscles today. Everything's push button, this and
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
uh, so you got to make your choice. Do I want to bite into this new technology where I
mm.
don't have to do this anymore with my muscles? I don't know. It's getting crazier and crazier, in my opinion, on how little
You
muscle.
don't have a phone, do you?
I don't have to the consternation of my wife. I don't have a phone. Yeah, I lived happily without one, and
Yeah,
I figure I see all
stick with
these
it.
people stressing out about their phones. I see my wife
Mm.
getting beeps and this, and I don't have to deal with that. So I
Yeah.
like to say that I'm doing a double blind study. I'm part of a double blind study to see what happens to people who aren't having cell phones, and if we're
Well,
any
you're
different,
practicing what you're preaching, aren't you?
something like that. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, cell phones. There's something else that I was thinking of when you said cell phones, uh, that people do all the time. Even just washing dishes. I know it might sound a little strange, but just washing dishes is just a good thing to just be physically active. Everybody puts things in the dishwasher. I can see if you have 10 kids or 5 kids, using a
Yeah.
dishwasher, but
I was going to say I have two and we can't be bothered washing.
you don't see. Well, wash those dishes there, Andrew. Get your body
I know.
moving.
You're right. You are right. You're so right. I feel that if my partner was here, she'd be like, "Trust me, Howard, I move."
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. No, I agree though, and I think it's great that you don't have a phone. I suppose it's all, again, it comes back to choices, right? I probably could survive without the phone. When I'm on an aeroplane back to the UK and I don't have my phone, I feel refreshed. I feel, but like you say, that balance. I have my phone. I do social media for the podcast. I don't post really anything about my family anymore. I don't do any posting like that. It's all related to the podcast, but I don't have notifications on. If I have emails, I have to physically go and check it myself.
Yeah.
Anything with anything else, I don't. So I'm definitely a lot better than what I used to. And I'm working
And
towards
I think
not
everybody's
having
trying
my
to
phone in the
balance that
bedroom.
out. I think everybody in their
Yeah,
own way
they are now.
is striving to
Yeah.
balance that. And I don't have to. I don't have to waste that.
Yeah.
I don't have to waste the resources, mental resources on balancing that part. Let everybody else,
Yeah.
waste their energies on it. Because it does take energies, I think, for people to balance out that cell phone and not. From what I'm seeing in my patients, what they tell me,
Yeah,
it's
you're
kind
right.
of a struggle. I don't have to deal with that struggle. I have my own little struggles, I guess. But and
Yeah,
we're
but
all
yours
meant to.
probably the healthy struggles, aren't they? They're probably the healthy struggles, maybe the good struggles to make us more resilient and prevent mental health decline and stuff like that.
Right. My struggle to help people out there to discover the four elements. That's my struggle, and it ain't easy.
Well,
I tell you.
Well, that's what was going to lead on to my next question. Your forward way of thinking. My question was, and I actually wrote this down in January. How do you plan to do that? Like, because you said before about being the outlier, it sounds like you have people conflicting against your thoughts and your research, and because everyone else is kind of reactive, or the doctors and the medical system are quite reactive.
Yeah.
How do you plan on doing it? Because I want to change the world too, right? And I don't have the answer to my own question.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, there's a few ways that I'm trying. One is it's kind of ironic here.
Podcast.
I work with a team at fourelementdoctor.com, and we're developing a phone app.
Naughty boy.
It started as something that wasn't on a cell phone that I was using with my patients, like a 4-element scorecard tabulator of sorts, and it's helping to break down different activities of one's life in these 4 categories of fire, air, water, and earth. And so it's going to be a phone app that helps people to use this 4-element frame of reference to see how they can balance different activities of their day, week, whatever. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's been in process for about 1.5 years. It's taken longer than it should have, as many good things take. But that's one way I'm trying to do it. I've also created what's called the 4-Element Institute, where I'm trying to work with other like-minded people I want to eventually do research on how to, from a healer's perspective, a doctor's perspective, I want to do research on the effect of good alignment on health of the organs. For example, I work with patients who might have had liver or heart issues, and I give them exercises to kind of align the structure of the heart region or the liver or their sinuses, their brain. I want to do research on early Alzheimer's and see what doing, helping the alignment of the skull and different motions in the skull to pump nutrition and blood and cerebral spinal fluid, how that can help in brain health. I truly do believe that one of the causes, I'm not saying it's the only cause or whatever, but a contributing cause is the forward head posture for brain health. In particular, I'm talking about right now is, all that forward posture that so many people have. And especially as you get older, you go like that. So those years of bad posture, all those people out there have good posture, because as you get older, it gets worse if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And
I keep straightening my back because I'm on the phone. I'm on the call to you. I'm keep straightening my back.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so I want to do research on that kind of a thing with the 4-Element Institute. So what I'm planning on doing is money that comes in from the app and other things like that are going to go toward research at the 4-Element Institute. I've written a book that's built upon that. And
Yeah, I can see you've got it in the
I've got
background
that
as well.
right there.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to put
And
I'm
you've
going to
got,
put a
oh,
picture on
you've
the
got
screen
your,
so it
okay.
pops up.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
So,
go
yeah,
on.
so
Let's elaborate on your book then, and
sure.
and the work that you've done there.
What do you want me to elaborate on? Give me a question, I'll answer it.
Yeah, no, let's get into the point, maybe the beginning of your writing of your book. What made you want to write it? I mean, it's pretty clear, but what was that pivotal moment going, I'm going to put this pen to paper
Yeah.
opposed to
Well, yeah, I've
other
always
ways?
enjoyed writing, to be frank with you. I enjoy
Yeah.
writing, and I'm not a bad writer. I'm not a perfect writer. I could use another editor. Uh, but uh, I've come to realize that I have a lot to say. I've been researching it for so long, and I think I have a unique perspective on how to, everything from nutrition. I'm somebody that's been, since I was, growing up, I was the child that was always into nature and into healthy, natural food, even. And so, I have years of experience with healthy eating. So that's in the book. How to recognize good, nutritious food, giving people a model or an approach to knowing, the how and why of eating healthy, and some, practical things that they can do. So that's a chapter, and that's a couple chapters of the book, uh, and giving. So the reason I wrote the book was because I felt people needed a resource, for helping them rediscover this four-element way of thinking that the ancients knew about, that nobody knows about hardly today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It is fascinating how much we've gone away from all of those four elements. It seems so logical, doesn't it, when we break it down? Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.